Hello, Mr. Kairu. What are you doing? Hello, Mr. German. I am looking for recipes to cook for my dog. You're looking online for recipes? Well, that might not be a good idea. Why is that, Mr. German? I am going to briefly explain how recipe checking works. You take all the ingredients in a recipe and enter it into a nutrient calculator. The calculator will help tell you how much of a nutrient is in the recipe based on the weight of food. You check these nutrient levels against a recommended minimum level. Here you can see we're checking against AAFCO's minimum recommended levels. Anything in red means that it does not meet the minimum recommended. This chart is a summary of nutrients that need attention when you're putting together homemade meals for dogs, and it gives an indication of nutrients that are commonly at insufficient levels in recipes found online and in books. So this is what triggered me to look into this. This report looked at 200 over recipes obtained from 34 sources between veterinary books, pet care manuals, as well as websites. The nutrients that had really high percentages that were missing in recipes, 74% of recipes did not provide enough vitamin D. 73% of the recipes did not provide enough calcium and zinc. 75%, almost 76% of all the recipes did not provide enough zinc. Just to be sure, can you check 3 recipes for me? I found 2 online and 1 from a book. So let's take a look at this recipe that Mr. Kairu found. 3 pounds of beef, 1 pound of liver, 1 cup of brown rice, and 5 cups of mixed vegetables. So what I usually do is I try to get an idea of how much protein, organs, and plant matter is in the recipe. So we have about 50% protein and 16, almost 17% liver, and the rest being plant matter of brown rice and mixed vegetables. So based on nutrient calculations, here you can see that these are the areas that need attention. The calcium to phosphorus ratio is way below 1:1, and the calcium in this recipe is only at about 20% of the recommended levels. Vitamin E in this recipe is only at 18% of recommended levels. Vitamin D looks to be in red, but is at 80% of recommended minimum levels. Because we are using whole real foods in this recipe, 80% is sufficient. Here is another online recipe that Mr. Kairu found. It uses 8 ounces of canned salmon, half a cup of eggs, 1 large carrot, 1 cup of chopped spinach, 11 ounces of russet potatoes, and 1 tablespoon of coconut oil. I really like the addition of a healthy fat into a recipe for homemade food for dogs is a really good idea. So this recipe has about 35% of protein, about 2% of added fat, and the rest being plant matter, which is carrot, spinach, and potatoes. Here is the nutrient composition of the recipe. The calcium to phosphorus ratio is below the 1:1 recommendation. Zinc and vitamin E need attention in this recipe because they are way below recommended levels. Copper is at 55% of the minimum recommended levels. Because we are using real whole food ingredients, that's okay. Looking at the book recipe that Mr. Kairu found, it uses half a pound of ground beef, half a pound of ground pork, 1/4 pound of pork liver, half a cup of broccolis, half a cup of carrots, and a 1/4 cup of brown rice. So protein makes up about 60% of the recipe, and organs make up about 15%, the rest being plant matter of broccoli, carrots, and brown rice. Here is the nutrient composition for this recipe. The calcium to phosphorus ratio is below the 1:1 ratio, and calcium is only at 20% of the recommended levels. Vitamin E is insufficient. Vitamin D is insufficient. Copper is at 68% of recommended levels. Because we're using whole real foods, 68% of minimum recommended levels is enough. So you can see, Mr. Kairu, looking for recipes for your dog online and in books might not be such a good idea. Komatta ne. This is troubling. What should we do? You can head over to homemadefordogs.com. We have an online course that teaches you how to make balanced homemade meals for dogs. The meal creation system is part of the course, and that helps you create nutritionally balanced homemade recipes. Visit homemadefordogs.com.